Hi Stampers, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Today I'm going to show you how to stencil on the back of this card on the background using drywall mesh tape. You can purchase this pretty much in any location that sells paints. I purchased mine actually at Walmart. And all I'm going to do is cut off a piece. And that's what I'm going to use for my stencil. Let me show you what else we're going to need for supplies. We're going to need Daffodil Delight cardstock measuring 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, scored at 5 1/2 in the center and folded. Whisper White cardstock 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And you're going to need for stamping just a scrap piece of Daffodil Delight and a scrap piece of white. For ink colors, we're going to use Crumb Cake, Rose Red, Daffodil Delight, and Mossy Meadow. And for today's stamp set, we're using the Crazy About You stamp set that's featured in our Occasions 2015 Stamping Up catalog. And we're going to be using all 3 of these images plus the Just Saying, right here, Just Saying. Once we have our images stamped, we're going to need our punches, 1 1/4 inch scallop circle punch, 1 3/4 inch scallop circle punch, the modern label punch, the flower medallion punch, and we're also going to need an antique brad. So I'm just going to take one out of the container. We're going to use this one that has a little bit of white on it today. And you're also going to need a sponge dauber. I don't clean my sponge daubers. I just leave the ink on them and I use them for the same color each time. So that's why I label all of my punches. I will have a listing of all these supplies at the end of the video. So let's get started. So we're going to bring in our white panel, and the mesh tape does have a little stickiness to it, so when you lay it down on your cardstock, it's there permanently. Well, not permanently, temporary, but you'll be able to peel it right off. So we'll bring in the Crumb Cake ink, and you're just going to sponge over the mesh. And you can actually add darker shading here and there, or do it all in the same tone. But that's how easy this is. And now we're going to peel it off. And voila, it's magic. Now, one thing I didn't mention in my supply list, you're also going to need an adhesive remover, only because there is a little bit of residue that remains from the tape. So I just kind of rub it over to get the residue off. And I'll show you why in a minute. I didn't do this on my first card. Okay, it's nice and smooth. And you'll notice that on some of my leaves, like this one, you can see where some of the stickiness remained on the leaves. But it's not a big deal if you don't do it. Okay, now we're going to get to our stamping, and I'm going to start out with the branch image using the Mossy Meadow ink. It's going to look kind of funny because I'm spreading them out, because most of this is going to be covered with flowers. So I have 3 leaves there. Now I'm going to bring in my scrap piece of white, and I'm going to stamp my flowers. And I don't know if you noticed on my yellow flowers, I have 2 layers. So what I did is I stamped 4 of these and then just cut the center one with a smaller scallop circle. So we'll bring in the Daffodil Delight ink. And there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm actually going to need another piece of paper. It's not big enough to do the remaining flower in the Rose Red. And you can see in my scrap here what I mean by cutting the larger flower with a smaller scallop. So let's get our flowers cut. So this one is the flower medallion punch. Let me just trim a corner so I can get to it. There's one flower. So now I'm going to cut two to size, two of the Daffodil Delight flowers to size. There's one. Two. And now I'm going to bring in the smaller scallops. And you can even line up the scallops if you pay careful attention. There's one. And there's my second one. You'll see how the scallops still match even though we're using the smaller punch. And now all that remains is the sentiment, and we're going to stamp that with a rose red ink and cut that out with the modern label punch. And I'm just going to center that over the sentiment and punch. So now let's glue all our pieces together. We'll fold our Daffodil Delight cardstock piece with our bone folder, and I'm going to glue the white layer in place. And now I'm going to add my brad to the center of my rose red. Sorry about that noise. Using my Stampin' Pierce mat and my paper piercer. I'm going to put the brad in the center. And I always use my bone folder to push on this to make sure it's nice and flat on the bottom. I'm going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals. And also on the Daffodil Delight flowers. And on my sentiment. So now we're going to glue the rose red flower in the corner first. And then we'll layer the scallop flowers. And I tried to put these scallops between the scallops on the larger flower so they pop out more, so they're not all lined up. Now we're going to glue those flat. I think I'll have this petal come out over the flower. And we'll add our sentiment. And that's it for this card. You'll see both cards are the same except for the antique brad on the flower is different. This one has a darker color to it. If you have any questions, make sure you contact me by email or by leaving a message on my video. I will have all the supplies listed at the end. And if you need any of these supplies, please feel free to shop at my online store. I'll have the link at the end of the video. Thanks for stopping by and have a good day.